I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel saying, join my buddy Gordon Dymowski, my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to talk my favorite year. Maybe that these both of these gentlemen have been wanting me to see, and I recently sat down and did. And I got to tell you guys, I really enjoyed this, the hell out of this. It was very funny and witty. It was very nonstop. I love the mob play because though it was like life threatening in the movie, it's sort of like a fun little nod to every gangster movie I've ever seen in a weird way. I love the cigar play between the guy who's dressing like the mobster and the actual mobster. Very well done. Peter O'Toole is just a master actor. I remember seeing him in Lion in Winter, which is my favorite Peter O'Toole movie. And I really, really love him in this. He really shines as somebody who's just naturally funny.
Peter O'Toole's very funny. This marked, I think, a real beginning of a comeback for him that lasted for quite a while.
And in fact, he was nominated for an Oscar for this film.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. And directed by the great Richard Benjamin. The actor, Richard Benjamin. And, you know, I was watching the closing credits of the movie. And I was looking at the names of the actors in the film, and they all had 2 of them, except for Mark Lynn Baker, who had 3. But seriously, something occurred to me, and it's this. I've always maintained that good writing is honestly about as expensive or cheap as bad writing. So you might as well have good writing, because there are lots of good writers out there who, as we can see, are very underpaid. The same is true for actors. I think there are so many good actors who have established themselves over decades of performance on TV, often in small parts. And, you know, other than sex or something, I don't know why more directors don't just sit down with the casting director and say, here's a crazy one. Let's have good actors in all the parts. You know, when I'm casting a show and I have a oh God, there goes the belt. And Jules not going to have any of this good actor nonsense.
Yeah. He just wants bad actors.
So about Greg Slocum. So anyway, but what I was getting to is these people all establish themselves, and so why not have good actors? And that's what Richard Benjamin did. It's like he called up all of his friends and he said, you know how we're all kind of pretty good, but we don't get enough parts? Well, show up. I got something for you. And he did.
Gordon, what do you think?
I think this, I love this movie. And as I watched it, I realized why I really dislike a lot of modern movie making for a couple of reasons. The first is this is a very tight economic script. It gets what it needs to get done. Every character has a moment. It's not bloated. It does what it needs to do and then moves on. And I think too, this is a nice done in one movie. And unfortunately, there are 2 words that absolutely drive me bonkers, and that every time someone uses them in discussions of films, television, whatever, I want to hunt them down and hurt them, which is franchise and content.
What if they mean it in a negative way?
Well, that's what I mean. It's because a movie like this, if you try to do it now, you'd probably want to do a sequel and a sequel and a sequel.
Oh.
You'd have the spinoff of the Benji Stone, The Continuing Adventures, Alan Swan and his daughter. I also think too, there's not only a charm, but there's an energy. And something I found out is that Mel Brooks executive produced this movie. He doesn't get credit for it, but you can tell it has that. It's not just his background, but there's the energy and the movement and when we first see Alan Swan, he's waking up. He's next to a young woman in bed, and he's looking at a teddy bear, and or like a stuffed animal, and you're thinking, oh, did they really go there? Because you're thinking they're hinting that this woman is underage, because they're going to hire like an older actress, slightly older actress, to play younger. It's like, no, she's a flight attendant. So it's like, whew. But there's also a really good, it's also a really nice callback to a lot of times when you do period pieces, they tend to be a bit gritty or a bit like sour. It's the Mad Men approach. It's you see how cool this looks? There's a lot of seediness going on. There's nothing about that in this film. There's a joy to this film.
Yeah, even at the beginning, he says, hey, it's 1954. Look how we looked back then. Pretty nifty, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a Buick. And I think, too, it's also the story about how two men really kind of, they learn to be better men. And the interesting thing is, and it's one of those obvious things, but you never really notice it. They're all men hiding behind different names. So Benji Stone is really Benjamin Steinberg. He's Jewish. He's trying to be a comedy writer. Alan Swan is Clarence Duffy. He's an actor. And both of them are trying to live up to this idealized version of who they think they are. With Benji Stone, I think it's when towards the end he confronts Alan Swan and says, hey, look, you were a hero to me. You need to go out there and kick ass. And Swan looks at the fight that's broken out live on television and says, what the hell? I'm sober. I'm going to go fly in.
That's a great moment. It is honestly, even though it's a comedy, it is one of my favorite action sequences in any movie. Because, the music is just, who wrote the music for this? It's marvelous. The music is just great. And the fight choreography is wonderful, all that technical stuff. But the important thing is the storytelling. That they have been building up to this on several different vectors, because you've got the Joe Bologna character, King Kaiser, and what he wants, and all these other, all coming down to this one sketch, and the mob has their interests in it, and then for Alan Swan, who has, really, I don't think any of those concerns. It is just a proving ground for just exactly what the power of a movie star is. Now, Jewel, I want to ask you your take on something here. Oh gosh, Steakums. What do you think? But beyond that, you remember Steakums? The reason I started bringing this movie up to you, beyond my whole sort of Kennedy assassination tie-in stuff with it, is this. Do you remember why I kept bringing the movie up?
I don't.
Yeah, neither do I. No, it was when we were talking about Joan Bennett. And we were talking about Joan Bennett as an actress, and I said, Jewel, I love you, pal. I don't really think she's an actress. I think she's a movie star, and that's no insult. But there is a difference, and because maybe one of the key lines of the movie, not just because it was in the trailer, which got played in the 80s forever, but I'm not an actor, I'm a movie star. And that, to me, you cannot analyze Joan Bennett's work, without really getting behind that phrase. Your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. Here's the thing. I knew Joan Bennett was a movie star long before Dark Shadows.
Well, Jewel, it's not that.
But I also think that with movie stars, with, larger than life people who become larger than life people because they're big time movie stars, when you look at somebody like Joan Bennett's career, because she was in a lot of she was in gangster movies, she was in a lot of movies, and this big time star. Also, her sister Constance was it too. You sometimes with actors, yes, they can be big, but they also have, I think at times actors also realize their value. And I sort of think, for example, okay, you say Joan Bennett. Okay, yes, Joan Bennett was a movie star, but when you hold her up to the other names of the, not just the actresses but the actors, is her name as big as theirs? Is her name as big as, let's say, I don't know, Henry Fonda's, Humphrey Bogart's? You know, again, you.
I think my point is not was not well translated. I don't think I
Well,
expressed it as clearly.
may I jump in?
Yeah, I was about to say, Gordon. Could you
Okay.
jump in?
We talked a little about this, Jewel, when we talked about the Dark Shadows revival and hiring Gene Simmons. Joan Bennett might not have. One of the reasons they probably hired her wasn't because they thought, hey, we've got an actress. They didn't pull a Quentin Tarantino and thought, here's this actress who didn't get her shot. Let me give her the smart material. One, it was geared to get an older audience, but also with a movie star, there's a certain set of preconceptions and a certain aura, especially in the age in which, Joan Bennett was a star in the 30s and 40s. And so she had a certain, when you look at her, there's a certain kind of indefinable, you can tell she's like, there's a timelessness about her, so to speak. She's not Nancy Barrett or Catherine Lee Scott or Laura Parker, who kind of have that, they're kind of their time. There's a sense of history with Joan Bennett, just like with Gene Simmons. She was more popular in the 50s and 60s, but they brought her in not simply because, they think she could act, but because she brings a certain kind of mystique and a history to the show. Just like, and this will probably be the only time I defend the 2013 Dark Shadows movie, that's why they hired Michelle Pfeiffer, because she has that kind of maturity, and she's not tied into any particular, there's a kind of timelessness about her.
No, I get why Joan's in Dark Shadows. You're right. She is a movie. They needed a name.
And even in the movie, Alan Swan, they hire him because he's a movie star.
Alan Swan.
Yeah.
For me, it's that they are two very different performance styles from two very different eras of acting, and that realism, like gritty realism, was not always a premium for actors of that era, because it really didn't quite exist. They were in the early, realism is something that's really only about 150 years old as an acting style. Before, there was no interest in it at all. And it took a long time for it to sort of seep into performance. And for me, Joan Bennett and to a certain extent Alan Swan as a character come from a time when movies were silent at first, and Joan Bennett, certainly if she was never in a silent movie, grew up and probably entered into her acting training, what of it there was, expecting that she would be a silent movie actress, and there is a very expressive size that's tied to the actor's personality that is not really about exploring a character or something like that. It's about giving a performance. And that's great. That's wonderful. That I think we need more of that now. I think we have drowned in realism, which is one of the things I talk about in Daybook Unbound a little bit in an early chapter about cool. And so, for me, Joan Bennett, in name and in everything else, is a movie star. It's funny because Humphrey Bogart, and Henry Fonda, although they are movie stars, for me are very realistic actors. And so they are actors who happen to be movie stars. And Joan Bennett was a movie star among actors. And it's almost a completely separate animal. And they have great respect for each other. It's not like one's better than the other or anything. But, Joan Bennett is the woman who brought her lunch to Dark Shadows set in a Tiffany's bag and pretended not to see the irony. And I love that about her.
Well, when you think of actors and actresses being, or movie stars, if you will, I think it also depends on why you're casting a certain individual. If you're casting a certain individual because you need a name, you're going to cast a movie star. You're going to cast a big name. Or every now and again, you're going to cast an actor who could be a movie star or has that potential of being a movie star, even though they're a very talented actor. Let me give 3 great examples, because 2 turned down the third one's role. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee turned down the role of Dr. Sam Loomis, who was played by Donald Pleasance. 3 very great actors.
Donald Pleasance is more of a movie star than he is an actor.
But
he's a great.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, now, Betsy Palmer was in movies, but she was also on television. What's Betsy Palmer's best known role? Tell me.
I don't. Is that Betsy Russell? I like her.
Betsy Palmer.
Private school.
Oh, I love. Oh, she made the drink that's like half iced tea and half lemonade.
Okay, no, now Jules being serious. I think she's in. Is she in one of the Halloween movies?
She is the mother of one Jason Voorhees in the original Friday the 13th.
Okay.
She's the killer.
Yeah.
That's her. Yeah. That's her most known role.
Yeah.
And I think again, it depends on. I get what you guys are saying. Yes, movie star. I agree. But also, I think it also depends on, is that what you're looking for? If you're looking for a big name, then yeah, you're going to go out and get one. And hopefully one will come to you as well.
Well, if I may, with
Please.
My favorite year, something to consider. When they were casting Peter O'Toole, Patrick mentioned he was in a bit of a comeback. Part of O'Toole's notoriety was that he was known for many incidents of public drinking. I mean, he and Oliver Reed were Oliver Reed and Richard Harris were kind of the 3, if you put a keg in one of them, you're not going to get any beer because they're going to be all like drinking it.
Yeah, throw in one more, Richard Burton.
Yeah, there's actually a book about all 4 of them called The Hellraisers, which
is a great book.
Mm-hmm. And so the producers were looking at, who do we cast to play an Errol Flynn type who's a heavy drinker and who we know could do the job, but who's also willing to, play with that reputation. Peter O'Toole. Mm-hmm. So if you put another actor in, it might not have had the kind of knowledge and confidence, because Alan Swan, for all his drunkenness, is a very, at least superficially, confident character. And I think when you cast movie stars in certain roles, you're not necessarily, you're either thinking, what can we use to exploit this about this with O'Toole, or what do we need in this situation that we can suggest a certain kind of vibe. If like Joan Bennett would have failed as Alan Swan, but I think Peter O'Toole would have made a great Elizabeth Collins Stoddard. I think he would have even made a better Roger Collins.
Who would have made a good Alan Swan? We just mentioned him. He's my favorite actor of all time, Oliver Reed. But not as good as Peter O'Toole.
Right. Because Peter O'Toole's a little bit more athletic and lean. Oliver Reed he's the kind of guy who would wrestle Alan Bates naked.
That first male nude scene. Had they gotten, he would not have been swinging on a rope, but he would have burst through the set like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah. I think if Oliver Reed tried to swing from a rope, he'd be like, gravity would not be his friend.
Gag. That'd be a very funny gag.
He'd burst through the wall like the Shockmaster did in WCW.
That was my next analogy I was going to make. Joel, what do you think of Jocko?
In this movie or what?
God, I wish he was in this movie. Just as an actor. He's the Energizer. New Energizer. It'll surprise you. You remember Jocko?
No.
Jocko? Gordon, you remember Jocko?
A little bit.
Yeah, Jocko. Anyway. He was on a show with Sam J. Jones and Jane Badler. And I don't remember the name. It was like The Regulator or something like that. And it was NBC in the late 80s, getting real desperate. That was a wonderful period of television. I'm just saying it.
I use another example as for a movie star who was an actress who was in a lot of movies, but is known for one role specifically. Janet Leigh. What's her most known role? Psycho.
Psycho, yeah.
I mean, that's again. I think it depends on what you're wanting the actor for. Here, Peter O'Toole is a great movie star who can act, and you want the name.
Well,
just like Swanson, you want the name.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole. I think he was very good at playing that sort of Errol Flynn, like basically playing Errol Flynn, but without the Nazi connections. Yeah, O'Toole had established himself. I mean, despite his crazy reputation, I think from the beginning of his career as an actor and as a damn good one too. I mean, God, have you ever seen Beckett?
No.
Oh, Gordon, have you seen Beckett?
Oh, it's been an eternity, so I need to rewatch it.
It's really good. Jewel, I'm telling you, next movie in the McCray Film School, I suggest that you would love. I only suggest movies if I think you're really going to like them. And if you like Lion in Winter,
I do.
It doesn't quite have sort of the cattiness, although there's some of that. But man, Beckett will flatten you. It's great.
Oh, and Beckett is free on Tubi.
I'll check it out.
They made a sequel where they played soccer. Bend it like Beckett.
That's Beckham.
I know.
This movie has a lot of good humor. Everything hits you really right. And comedies are all about timing. And that's what this is. There's a lot of great timing. I love the scene with the Jewish family. It's just pure fun.
Hey, Joel, ask me this question. Patrick, what is the secret of comedy?
What's the secret of comedy?
Timing. There you go.
No, it is. You're right. That's the thing. The comedy is all about timing. It's funny. I'm trying to think of who the director was. He's more known for special effects, but oh god, who am I thinking? But the guy I'm thinking about had said horror is a lot like timing too. It's gotta work. It's gotta click.
Oh, Jewel, let me tell you, horror and comedy as a director. In having directed both and having directed a bunch of comedies before I got to direct a horror play, because there aren't many horror plays out there, is unbelievably similar. And I'll tell you how I started to learn that. And it is all about timing, because both comedy and horror deal with the audience seeing something coming that the characters don't know is going to happen. And the trick with both of them is that you have to extend the expectation to the point that the audience starts to think that they're safe, and then you strike. And in a comedy, the consequences are less, and you get a laugh. But it's all about suspense. And in a horror play, it certainly is about very real consequences. But yeah, I was amazed when I directed a production, Turn of the Screw, written by a marvelous writer named Jeffrey Hatcher. And it's just two people. And man, is that thing all about setup, punchline, but it's horror punchline. A question I just wanted to ask, do you have any, Joel, I know you just saw the movie recently, so this may not be as fresh, but this goes to both of you. Do you have any favorite lines?
Oh my god, favorite lines.
I got a lot.
Welcome to our humble chapeau.
Yeah, welcome to our humble chapeau. Oh, that's a good one. From that same scene, what is that interesting meat? It has that piquant aftertaste. Parrot. Ah, God, the line reading from the husband on that is just it's as good as Swan's reaction.
I shall carry this till I die.
I can't think of a lot of the lines in this movie, but because I was more excited by the very much back and forth between the characters. I more watched the movie than I did analyze it than anything. I really like. I don't know the line exactly. I think the mob boss says about eliminating stuff. He throws something out the window.
Yeah, he throws a picture out the window, and King Kaiser saying, "Oh, so hypothetically, if I were to get rid of this cashmere coat," throws it out the window, and you see the things buzzing about, and you hear like the cars honking because stuff is falling out of this tall building.
Another great one. So is this, but every once in a while I have to pass some water through it. Which I think is a much older joke. I think the movie is full of jokes that have been around for a while, but it collects them all in one place and gives them a fantastic context.
And life's too short to eat dim sum with chopsticks.
I think, I don't know, but I think, Mark Lynn-Baker had done some stuff prior to this. I swear to you, he's probably one of the guys in Diner. But good God, I really think of this as his first real breakout performance. And what a breakout performance. Mm-hmm. Because we can sit here and talk about Peter O'Toole all day, but Mark Lynn-Baker carries the movie. And, to me, it's no coincidence that Richard Benjamin went out and found the most Richard Benjamin-like actor he could find, who coincidentally was born in the year the movie takes place, 1954, and appears in She-Hulk, which is probably my favorite Marvel production. I loved it. He's her dad.
And you know what this film really needed? It needed like a second character. He needed like a partner, like a cousin from a different country who could like get into scrapes with him, and he could be the straight man as he's trying to handle Swan.
I never saw an episode of that show.
It was kind of similar. It's kind of like a screwball. Balky was always getting into trouble, and Markland had to he had to say, look, don't do that. We don't do that in this country. Chill out. And then they became cops, and they drove a car and they fought crime.
Mark Lynn-Baker is also in, I think, maybe the worst legitimate film of the 80s. And that's saying a lot, because the 80s had a lot of bad movies. This is a movie that has a terrible concept, but you still want to watch it anyway. And then the moment you start watching it, you just feel awful. You feel ashamed. It is not even worth a retrospective in the name of camp. And that is a movie. And Jewel, I'll tell you, just look it up. Look up the plot to this while we're here. Warm up your Google. It's called Me and Him. Gordon, you ever hear of Me and Him?
I'm going to go Google it because it sounds familiar, but I'm not going to.
This was a movie that was advertised in Variety forever. It was supposed to be kind of a major release. And
I just Googled it. I know what it is. We'll let Jewel figure it out for himself.
Yeah, I want to see his reaction. As we're waiting. Have you seen it, Jewel? Have you looked it up yet?
Oh my God!
This is a legitimate movie. It's a work of art. It's a real film.
Okay, for those who are going to listen to this podcast,
I gotta hear you read this.
I'm going to read what the plot of Me and Him is. Okay, a man's enthusiastic penis starts talking to him, getting him into awkward situations, and convincing everyone he tells that he's completely insane.
And the penis was voiced by Bronson Pinchot.
Was it really?
No, I'm pulling that out.
It could have been. Who voiced the penis? Who provided the voice of the penis?
And don't look on Pornhub.
Oh my god. Hold on a second. We're going. I'm going to hell.
This is a legitimate move. This is worth the wait. This is entertainment. This is during a show.
What's really weird is in the casting, it doesn't have a voiceover thing. It doesn't say voice this. There's the stars who starred in it. Let's see. Paramedic.
Okay, I'm looking on IMDb. Patrick and Marklin Baker played the penis.
He played the penis. Okay, Marklin Baker played the penis.
Yeah, and right now we just lost a whole bunch of viewers because we
gained a whole lot more.
So don't watch the movie. Okay. Do watch My Favorite Year. This movie's fun.
But don't watch My Favorite Penis.
Yeah, My Favorite Year is free on YouTube. Yes. Me and Him probably isn't, and don't go searching for it, people. Just don't.
Now I am. Yeah. At the movie theater I worked at when I was a kid, we always read Variety, and we kept seeing these things about Me and Him, and we just thought, this has got to be just a disaster waiting to happen. And then I saw it. It was one of those things that was on VHS, but you had to go to a big city to find it. Not in like the special section or something, just like, to where they had a Tower Video or something.
Yeah.
And I could not make it through Me and Him. And for me, there is no movie that cannot be improved with a talking Schwanzstücker, and yet they somehow botched it. So there you go, Jewel. Me and Him.
Oh shit,
Jewel. Let me ask you a question. If a character in Dark Shadows could have had a talking Winkus, who would it have been? What plot line would you have worked into?
Wait a minute, you sure that wasn't Quentin? I'm sure he had.
Quentin, that's what Count Patofi's after. That's what Aristide's after. I think Adam is a with the voice of Addison Powell. Very serious talking schmeckle. It's okay. We're discussing short subjects.
You know a character who could have had a talking penis and got away with it?
Joan Bennett. No, who?
Humperdinck in Australia. It was Nicholas Blair.
No. I disagree with it.
He's a warlock.
No.
A warlock, not a bollock. No, okay, Gordon, what were you going to say in this elevated discussion?
The person I think would have a talking penis, Jason McGuire.
Jason, he did. He had a willy.
Yeah, well, he had two willies if you think about it.
Oh my god! So, guys, what's your favorite scene in this movie? In My Favorite Year.
Well, outside of the ending, my favorite it's the movie scene with the Chinese food, where instead of like, hey, we should live together and have sex, he's like actually taking her on something resembling a date. Yeah. And he's trying to teach her chopsticks, and he throws them out and says, life's too short to eat dim sum with chopsticks, and pulled out a fork. I love that scene.
It is. It's one of the great movie dates in any film, because it is an example of what a good date should be. And I have had a few good dates and I've had many bad ones. And the bad ones, the conversation is always forced. It's always kind of leaden and lugubrious. And I end up playing Charlie Rose, not in the, self-exposure sense, but just, like asking lots of questions and so on. But boy, when you have the opportunity to have a conversation like that, it's just a delight of real chemistry. What a wonderfully well written scene, and so light in its touch. For me, favorite scenes in this movie. It's like asking who my favorite James Bond is, Timothy Dalton, but who is definitely a movie star and an actor. The thing about this movie and like picking a favorite James Bond is it depends on what mood I'm in, because all of the James Bonds have things to recommend them. Eon people did just a fantastic job with casting every time, and each one brings something different. And it just depends on the mood that you're in. And so when it comes to my favorite year, this is all connected. There are so many good scenes and so many good scenes that do specifically individualistic stuff that, is it the stuff with Tess? Gosh, that's awfully good. Just the mention of it. Is it, Alan Swan being crazy drunk? Is it the action scenes? Is it Mark Lynn-Baker trying to contain him? Is it that amazing dinner scene that Gordon mentioned? Is it, watching Joe Bologna do his best Sid Caesar impression, where you both can't stand him, but you kind of would love to work for him at the same time, as difficult as that is? Watching the real Bill Macy, navigating all. Bill Macy has such a big part in this movie, and he's an actor who never got a big part in a movie, but God damn it, Richard Benjamin knew what he was doing and gave him a chance to shine. And so many actors, Selma Diamond, so many actors get a chance to really shine, even if they don't have a lot of parts. Nothing feels like a cameo.
Yeah, and that's what I love about. I mean, let me go on my little rant about modern movies. There's no bloat in this movie, and there's a lot of bloat. And like, do we really need a 3-hour movie about Oppenheimer? I don't think so.
What? Did you see that thing?
No.
It was like watching a movie in an MRI. It was shot like one long trailer. It was just a shot that pushes in, and in the middle of a conversation, characters say things, but because Nolan won't do ADR, and because an IMAX 70 millimeter camera is so bloody loud, you can't hear anything anyone is saying. But by God, the music keeps telling you it's important. It is. I've said this before. I don't think I've said it on one of Jules' shows, but Oppenheimer is like Anchorman in this sense. There's that wonderful moment at the beginning of Anchorman where he's gotten done combing his mustache. He's looking at himself in the mirror and he says, "Hey, everybody, get in here and see how good I look." Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan, who I think has to be a really boring guy, saying, "Hey, everybody, come in here and look at this movie to see how profound I am." And when a movie has to work that hard and to tell me how profound it is, I want nothing to do with it. I took a half-hour intermission in the middle of that thing, and it was still too long. God, I thought it was a rotten movie, and I'm just here to say it.
Yeah, and kind of jumping off of that point, a lot of modern movies, I know why they do like over 2 hour, to me, a perfect movie length is between 90 minutes and 2 hours. If you're going to go over, make sure that the plot necessitates it. I mean, do we, when Avengers Endgame came out, after I saw it, I thought, you've got like 2 or 3 movies that you could have broken that into and not lost any of the narrative function.
Gordon, I walked out on that movie. I have yet to see the end of it.
Well, I basically got it from the library on DVD and would like watch a half hour, walk away, watch another half hour, walk away, because I can't. And a lot of it is just so. And the fact that I could see where, okay, you could put this here, you get two 90-minute movies that would be really good. And
I watched Dark Shadows, and I think that movie's boring. I mean, that's saying something, because Dark Shadows takes its time.
Hey, I've watched multi-part Doctor Who telesnap reconstructions that I would rather see than Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Endgame is a film where when like they're running around remaking the movies that we already had to watch, and they're just like having to like do schemes and collect the stones or whatever. And I thought two things. I thought, you know, this is just a delaying tactic to get to the big fight at the end. Just get to the big fight at the end. And the other thing, and I said this out loud along those lines, and it's one of the reasons why I walked out of the movie. I said, oh, come on, you're just making it up. And it's so absurd because the whole movie's made up. But when you talk about things that probably really aren't essential to the plot, that crap. I mean, I know that he had to get the stone to put in a magic glove and do all this other crap, but who cares? It just felt like they're just throwing it in to extend the running time. And I remember I went to the John on the movie, and you know, was actually relieved in more than one sense that I wasn't in the movie anymore. And I started thinking of the litter box, and that I needed to change the litter box. And the thought of changing a litter box, which I hate doing, was more enticing to me. And not because I have some weird German thing, was more enticing to me than sitting through the rest of that bloated mess.
Yeah, there's only one recent movie that's over 2 hours that I thoroughly enjoyed. The Sparks Brothers, which is a documentary about the band Sparks.
Okay.
It's actually really good because you've got interviews intercut with performance, and the arc of the band's story. It's not your traditional, hey, we get together, hey, there are drug problems, hey, we broke up. It's this kind of it's a very interesting arc.
Well, talk about a long documentary that just flies by. Hoop Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Hoop Dreams?
Yes.
Greatest sports movie I think ever made. It's fantastic. And it's like 38 hours long, but it feels like it's an hour. It just flies by.
And you know why? Because, and talking to, going back to my favorite year, movies are a visual medium. There's a lot of shots and the way the director handles, like Richard Benjamin does a lot, not just with acting, but with the way he composes shots. Like the ending shot where you see Alan Swan on the monitor looking just pleased with himself. And Benji says at the end, this is the way I always want to remember Alan Swan. Whereas you look at something like, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on Twitter, and you know what? I will if you want to come after me, I will give you a nice single finger salute. That a lot of the problems with with Zack Snyder movies, not just his directing, but a lot of those scripts, you can do a lot. You would have cut a lot of that stuff out with a scene, or a performance, or a glance. You don't need a 3-hour movie. If you need 3 hours to tell a story, and most of it is bloat, you're doing something wrong.
I don't think I've ever seen a Zack Snyder movie that I enjoyed. I really mean that. An inexplicably ham-fisted, self-important, boring director, and that comes from an inexplicably ham-fisted, self-important, boring director. Me.
Yep. Yeah. And well, Zack Snyder. I think the only difference between he and you is that I don't think you've ever read Ayn Rand.
Are you kidding? I wrote the key satire of Ayn Rand. I wrote Elvis Shrugged.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that. You didn't take it seriously.
No, I wrote a key satire of it.
Right.
Yeah. God, a Zack Snyder version of Atlas Shrugged. Boy, if you thought those low-budget pieces of crap were bad.
Let me give you.
Yeah. Well, he's actually working on the Fountainhead.
I can give you a movie that's pretty much completely.
I mean, his production company is called Fountainhead Productions.
Well, that's not
From-
Fountain.
from
Julie,
start-
what were you going to say?
The movie to me that's like, I can't say it's long, but even if it were, it would just make it more, make me want to poke my freaking eye out. And I hate the movie for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's part of a trilogy, and it makes, here's a movie where two writers said we're going to keep this grounded in reality, and they didn't. And that would be Halloween Ends. What a fucking piece of shit.
Which one was that? I saw the thing that
That was the very latest one.
That was
Oh, I didn't even bother. I didn't like the one before it, and I like Danny McBride, right?
Yeah.
I'm ashamed that he made such a lousy movie because he's such a bright guy. I wish he had been the hero of that Alien thing that he was in. But God, yeah, if it's anything like the first one, the first of those new Halloween things, actually taught me to dislike slasher movies. Because I suddenly realized how stupid I mean, I know you like them, Julian, that's great. But for me, how stupid they are, because it's just the same thing over and over again. And the only thing that's going to, kill the bad guy are the credits. Yeah. And so just get to the credits and let me out.
They should have stopped at 2018. 2018 should have been one movie.
And this is why I hate franchises.
And here's
because if 2018, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but if 2018 should have been the natural end, they're like, oh no, let's just pumping it out for more money.
Okay, I don't mind new characters being introduced into a franchise because that happens all the time. It's one thing to introduce a brand new character like a Corey Cunningham in Halloween Ends. It's another thing to say an existing character like Michael Audrey Myers in your current trilogy. Keep in mind, this character's been around for all three films. And in the two films prior, you did not say he could awaken someone else's evil or transfer his own into another body.
Exactly. I'll tell you, there is, Gordon, pardon me, I'll use the F word. There is a franchise that I actually like a lot, even though there's a lot of bad in them. And that's the Saw movies. And I'll tell you why. I have no interest in the gore or the inventive murders or anything like that. That to me is just like, set pieces and who cares? What I really like about those movies is that they are great Los Angeles films. And if you look at some of the great Los Angeles films, and, I know I'm not supposed to like it, but you can even put Crash in this category, Magnolia, Shortcuts, is that these are movies that show this amazing fractal sense of relationships and how these relationships just kind of really expand outward. But if you follow them, they can go back to certain central things. And I find that kind of story interesting. And for me, the McCray cut on the Saw movies would be I'd take out the murders and stuff, and I would just leave how all of these relationships kind of blossom around Tobin Bell's character. And to me, there's something really clever about those, and that's what I like about them.
Of all the men you cheated to cheat, you picked John Kramer.
Yeah.
That's in the new trailer, by the way. Saw 10.
Oh, is it? The guy who produces those movies is the son of the man, the secretly most powerful man in Hollywood for decades, who was the real power at the MPAA, responsible for rating things like Saw out of existence at one point. A guy named Dick Hefner, who is a brilliant historian and professor at Rutgers and hosted a wonderful PBS show called The Open Mind and also ran the MPAA. and I, to name drop, he was my pal. He was a good guy, Dick Hefner.
I give the movie my favorite year a 10, guys. What do you give it?
An 11.
A 13.
Yeah.
There you go. It's very, very good. Very entertaining film. You will not be bored from start to finish. Go watch this free on YouTube. I'm going to watch the other Peter O'Toole movie on Tubi.
Oh, boy, you're going to love it. I hope we can talk about it. It's so good. And you'll learn things about the fork.
When do you guys want to discuss it? Because we do have to do episode 960.
I need enough time to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, somewhere towards the end of next week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How's let's see. How's Friday?
Friday's great.
Okay.
It's good for me. Gordon, is it okay for you?
Yep, Friday's good for me.
Beckett is, gosh darn it, it's a good movie. And Martin Scorsese did a re-release of it about 10, 15 years ago.
Is Monday or Tuesday good for 960, guys? What day you guys have available for that?
I can do either.
So can I.
With one request, is there any way we could start doing those around 10? Because those are school nights. Okay, we can do it. It's okay.
Okay. No, 10's fine. Just because my kids aren't going back to school until a couple weeks from now, so we can do them at 10
or 10:30. 10:30.
10:30.
Yeah, because that's 9:30 my time. So
Yeah. 10:30.
10:30. Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So 10:30 Monday, guys. We'll do episode 960. Friday night, we're gonna do another Peter O'Toole movie. I'm really excited to talk about that with you guys.
It may be his best film.
I'm gonna send you guys the doc and music video and watch George Lynch riff a guitar on top of an active goddamn volcano.
I will watch any docking video you send me.
because we're docking.
When metal was metal.
Yeah.
You guys have
Joel, bring a turtleneck. See you later.
Links to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page, links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook about. Go check those out and pick those up. I'll see you guys. Have a good night.
Yes.
Bye-bye.